Now, I'm leaving as soon as this webinar is over. This is my last trip for the week or last trip for the month, and I got to take this crew of clowns and go on a retreat. So we're going to be gone for the weekend, and it takes me a little while to get some things done when we have to do that. So I will not be available following the webinar. It's very simple stuff. Let's start with this. Very simple stuff. We're going to cover UZine, GIFZine, LogoZine, MockZine. Today, we're going to focus our attention on UZine. I can't answer support questions. Those always have to go to support. Your questions are important, but they need to relate to today's topic. I will say this about support. I thought Rose was going to make an announcement in the group. She didn't. Rose is off on maternity leave. And so she will not be back with us for a little while because she is going to have a miniature Rose. So I'm excited for her and just thrilled to death. Rose is an amazing person. She's an amazing friend. So I'm excited for her and for her family. So we won't have her for a while. I wanted her to share that, but she has decided that it's in her best interest to rest right now. So yes, it is their first child, and she's very, very excited about this. And so I guess that makes me a grandpa. I'm just kidding. But she's an amazing person. We're going to miss her while she's out. So, all right, I will pass on all of your congratulations to her. Okay, let's have a really good experience for everybody that's involved, because we always want to make sure that we can do the very thing we're doing right now, and that is keep things positive and upbeat and exciting. And even when we have bad news, we have to have good things to say about the bad news. And so that's good. I can't answer partners' questions, and always refer to the link, which somebody's going to share with you here in just a moment, because y'all are amazing and you always share that link. So we'll do that in just a second. All right. I have a quote that I want to use today. And I one of the things I was a little bit late getting on for this morning is I have actually been to the Jesse Owens Museum, which happens to be here in Alabama. It is in the middle of nowhere, but Jesse Owens was an amazing athlete from back in the 30s. And he said this: we all have dreams. And that's true. We all have dreams. We have to keep this in mind as we approach anything. We all have dreams. But in order to make the dreams come into reality, it takes a lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. And that's so true. You know, we live in a world and most of us operate in a world that simply isn't connected to reality. The whole internet marketing space, of which many of us are deeply immersed in that up to our eyeballs and beyond, it makes a lot of promises that this is so simple, this is so easy. The reality is, if it's going to work and it's going to work well, you're going to have to work at it. And I hate to burst anybody's bubble with that, but you have to work at it. And this is just a reminder to us that in order to make those dreams come true, in order to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, you're going to have to work, and you're going to have to learn things, and you're going to have to put in some effort in order to make that happen. I remember standing at the Jesse Owens Museum and looking down the approach to the triple jump world record that he had set at the Olympics, and going, wow, that's a long ways off. That's a long ways off. All right, let's get started. Last week was Bertrand's birthday, and so lots of you gave him lots of love for his birthday, and that was really cool. But I hope you didn't miss this, because there's an announcement being made under the Seymour. He's talking about the future of UZine and where it's going and what's going to happen, and the fact that we're going to move away from Flash in 2019, which is really not as far off as it sounds. And so there's a total rewrite going on with UZine right now to move it in that direction, so that it will be operating off of HTML5 and CSS. Excuse me. And it will be, let me get a little drink here. So, but pretty cool announcement there. Also talked a little bit about the new fonts, and we're going to spend some time talking about fonts today. And so I posted in the group that we were going to talk about Fontology. So if you have not read this, do not miss that little Seymour right there, and make sure that you check that out. And yeah, the storm got my throat. No, it's the ragweed in Alabama that's got my throat. So that's what's going on. All right, make sure you read that, because you'll find some interesting update there as to what's going on with Usign, and I think you'll be encouraged by what you see. All right. The next thing is Ray posted this, and I really think this is cool. I really liked this. First of all, that's a very attractive visual. Would you not agree? Y'all agree that's a very attractive visual? I have no idea what that thing is. It's out on a limb there, but you know, that looks like a funny striped cat. But but the color combination here was amazing. This is a really, really cool looking visual. And I like what he said here, just some basic duplicating and cropping to get the starry background and the outline and the shadow effects on the text, nothing fancy. And the truth is you can do some really, really fancy stuff by not doing anything really fancy. And this works because it's simple. The colors are amazing. The green on black and black on green are, that's a powerful color combination. And if you were to take this color combination, take it to a color wheel, you'll find that these are really, really good colors to work together as well. All right. I really like that, Ray. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Elle, are you on? Because you are up next. This is the image that Elle posted, and several of you gave her comments about that. There's only one thing that caught my attention from this immediately. Does anybody know what it was? That made it difficult for me. You're exactly right, Eric. The fact that the X wasn't centered in the middle of the thing. That was the thing that got me, was the X is not centered. And yeah, I understand the spelling issue, but not having the X centered made me about fall out of my chair. I'm really kind of funky about things being symmetrical, and for me, symmetrical has to work. And so I looked at that and I went, oh, I think I'm gonna fall over. Literally, I'm funny about that kind of stuff, and so I just wanted to point that out, that it's amazing how that will impact people. I didn't want to look at it because it wasn't centered. Didn't take much. My initial reaction is that, and listen, if it was off by 6 pixels, it would have caught my attention. That was the one thing that got me. The rest of the design's cool, but the fact that the X wasn't centered, you kind of have to build around balance. Balance is an important thing, and I understand what you're trying to do, and that was to X out the O, but understand that, okay? Just a thought. The next thing is that Bob posted this about fonts, and I hope you all watched this video. Actually, I have this mismarked. Bob posted this no, this one was here. So this was really cool. This is a video about how that this is a video about how that a particular font has taken over movie posters, and the progression of that. This is a really interesting video, and how that using a single font and changing the kerning, changing the size of the letters, changing the slant, and those things, same font, but making slight tweaks to it, make the font thicker or make it thinner. Those kinds of things made all the difference in the world, and allowed it for you, the moment that you see the font, to know what kind of movie it was. It's a really, really interesting video. How many of you watched that video? This is a big test. How many of you watched that video? I'm waiting. The things that people share in the group, it really helps when you watch that, because I think these can really be helpful to you. Diana, were you the one that had asked the question in the group as to when this webinar started this morning? I apologize for not getting back with you, but I appreciate Gene doing that. Okay. Yeah, this is a really good video. It's 3 minutes and 50 seconds long. It's the best 3 minutes and 50 seconds that you could watch, because this guy has actually studied movie posters to the tune of 100 of them a month since 2006, I think it was, or 2004. That's a lot. 16,000 movie posters he's done, and really showed that. Okay, the video is posted in the group, and yeah, make sure that you check it out when we're done. Yes, that was a really interesting part, that they used to all be hand drawn, which was cool. Somebody share with Doug the link to the group. Could you do that for me, please? But yeah, this is worth your time. It's interesting to understand what's going on with that. So thank you all for helping out with that. The next thing is, I want to talk about what makes fonts work, because we've changed a whole bunch of fonts. We've added a bunch of fonts to use on. So today we're going to talk about fonts, and we're going to focus our attention on fonts. Again, this is one of those things that we talked about up here earlier, and that is that there's only 2 fonts in this poster. It doesn't look like there's 2 fonts. We have they're bolder here, they're thinner over here. But then we put this one in here that captures attention. And here's the thing that makes these fonts work. We're going to talk about this in just a minute, but I want you to see this. If that font were, if this Floor Captain font were exactly the same font that's right here, it would not work. It wouldn't accomplish what this does. Do y'all agree with that? Follow this along, and because there's some really good examples here that you can use. Learn to do this. Learn to take a look at that visual and go, what makes it work, and how do I duplicate that? Because what makes it work? It doesn't have to be blue. It doesn't have to have white lettering. It doesn't have to have this lobster font. It doesn't have to have those things. But what makes it work? The principles that make it work. The details are less important, but the principles that make it work are really, really important. So I wanted to cover that one more time this week and make sure that you're taking that you're learning to learn from those things that are really powerful and that work. Everybody agreed that was a powerful video or visual, and that it did its job. The next thing is, since Rose is not with us today, I'm going to talk about her again. This is still, of all of the things I've ever read about fonts, this is still one of the best articles I've ever read about using fonts and the use of fonts. So make sure that you go back and read that. And it wouldn't hurt, right now that we've added new fonts, it wouldn't hurt if you took a little time to read that, check it out again, now with the capabilities that we have, because she covers some things about fonts that work well together and what doesn't work well together. All right, we're going to play with that just a little bit when we get to the canvas, but this is a really, really good article. Rose has done an amazing job of being able to curate some amazing articles, and this is right at the top. So when we talk about fonts, it's really important to remember that we have some resources that are available to us, and one of those was Rose's blog post that can really help you to do a great job of being able to accomplish things just like this. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Whoever just mentioned use the search bar for Rose, because I'm not getting all of the chat information here. Whoever mentioned, remember to use that search bar. I think 2 or 3 times this week, people had said something about, had asked a question that has been answered multiple times in the group. I mean, multiple times it's been answered in the group. And it was an ask again. And if you'll learn to use the search bar, take advantage of the resources that are there, it will be amazingly beneficial to you. That search bar is there for a reason. The group, we put stuff in that group for a reason. And that is to help you when you run into a problem at 3 o'clock in the morning to go, oh, Where do I find that answer at? How about searching the group? Instead of just asking the question, how about doing the search first and see if I can find it with the search? And then it'll save people having to respond. Okay. All right. Next thing is, this is a really good article. Now, this article is in Logo Designers group. It's in the Logo Designers group. Martin shared that. Martin, if you don't mind, share that in the Udesign group as well. If you would do that, please, I would greatly appreciate it. I did not want to share it myself. I wanted you to get credit for sharing that. So if you will share that article over in the Udesigners group, the information there is equally as important for the Udesigners group as it is in the Logo Designers group. So thank you for doing that. That's a really, really good article. And it covers 4 things. And I'm going to illustrate one of them right now. Okay. Yeah, it's very few examples, but it's some verbiage, and I want to talk about the verbiage here because the language makes a lot of sense. There are 4 things that it covers in that article. Okay, there are 4 things that it covers, and here are the 4 things. It covers the psychology of fonts, the psychology of shapes, the psychology of lines, and as we've been talking for some time now, the psychology of colors. Now, I want to show you something that dawned on me as I was writing out these 4 things taken from that article. This visual, even though it's nothing more than words on a background, does not work for me. Does anybody know why? I'm listening. Does anybody know why? Why doesn't this work? I'm having a problem. The lines are centered. You're exactly right, Diane. The lines are centered. I use and I agree. I wouldn't have put it in all caps, but we use this font. This is our heading font. Notice this is the heading font. And so I had this heading already on the page. And so I just copied it 4 times and said, I'll just run that down the page. The number one problem is it should be left justified. Every one of these lines should be left justified. Watch what happens when I do that. Give me just a second to expand this out here. And watch what happens when I move the alignment to the left. Okay? When I move the alignment to the left, all of a sudden, that works a lot better. It works a lot better. Last week, we talked about putting things inside of a box and making sure that you have some alignment in the box. Now, the issue with it being all caps is much less significant in the fact that they were lob-wallied in the box. And by left justifying them, because you read from which direction, from left to right, and having those lined up made it work much better. So when you're doing, and I just wanted you to see that, okay? When you're working with text on your visual, make sure that you make the text do the things that it should do, and that is that it should balance. And centering that just was not going to accomplish the goal. So left justifying makes it look a lot better. Now, it would have been better if I'd put bullet points in front of that and all of that kind of stuff. If I were making an actual list, I would have made the list so that the lettering was not all caps. This happens to be all caps is the standard font for that headline. So, but just something as simple as playing with the justification. And if you're not sure what works, then try it left justified, right justified, and centered. I just took the language from the article. Okay, that's all I did, Tom. All right, I'm not trying to make a pitch for this, but I want you to understand that when we talk about fonts, we're talking about anything in a visual. There's a psychology to the fonts, and that's the reason why this article was so cool, was because this article goes into what's the psychology of the font. What's that font make me feel? And how important is that feeling to what I'm trying to accomplish? And so that was a really, really good article covering those 4 issues. How does the shape make me feel? What does the shapes do? Okay, what does the shapes do? What? See, we just changed a shape. We changed the shape from having every line centered to left justifying all of it and running it down the left-hand side of the page. Just the shape of the lettering on the page made a difference, right? The next one is the psychology of lines. You can put lines in. And one of the reasons why this visual works is because we disrupted the line, right? But the lines are powerful here. Lines are as important here as the text is, okay? And then the last one is the psychology of colors. Highly encourage you, read this article. Where'd it go? Read this article right here, this entrepreneur article. Somebody shared the link for that because this is really good stuff. Martin posted this in the group, and he's going to post it in Usign, and I think that you'll find that article to be incredibly helpful. All right. Well, Doug, that was the reason why we use it as a header, is because it does work well. That it does work well there. Gene posted this video, and this is again, this is learning how to and being determined to not let something keep you from. It would be great if we had absolutely everything we ever wanted, and Usign was just click this and everything works, kind of magic, but it doesn't. I mean, nothing does. Nothing works that way. So this is a really good video that Gene uses as a way to make something that we got 3,500 templates. How do we find our way around in those 3,500 templates? And we used the search bar last week, and what we came up with was 109. Now, I'd like to be able to save some of those. Gene's got a really good solution to that here, and a solution that I've been using for a while. And I think that that's extremely helpful to you if you can learn to do that. Thank you, Deb. I appreciate that comment. I really do. But again, find ways to make things work and find ways to constantly be making them simpler. All right. The more you can make things simple, the easier it is. Now, I have a question for you. This is a test. Okay. You ready for the test? The test is this. How many of you have now gone to Pinterest and looked at the top pins for your particular niche and figured out, how do I duplicate that? How many of you done that? Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Figure out what makes things work, just exactly like we did right here. Figured out what made this work. Now I can reproduce this many other times, even though the topics will change and the other things will change. If I learn to reproduce the principles that are there, then we can make it work. Okay. And so I shared these with you last week. We went through each one of them to talk about what made them work and why they were powerful, and why they were the top pins there. So next thing is another test. Anybody do this yet? I haven't had time. I could not do it. I was going to reach out to a couple of you, and with the travel last week and the travel this weekend, I just have not had time to do this. Has anybody tried to connect with anybody else using the teamwork? Because let's agree to do this. Let's agree to work together on something and find a way to kind of, and it does, I don't mean all of us, but I mean just a handful here or there, people that you have common interest in, common things. I think this will be helpful to you. This is here for your benefit. It's here to help you. It's here to make things a little bit easier for you. I've done this with a couple of people and thought it was pretty cool. And so get in there and roll your sleeves up and figure out how to make that work. Okay. let's go back to talking about, I use this for logo design, but I want to talk about the font usage here. Okay. As cool as I think this font is up here, I would never use it in this website. I would never use it here. I like to use it here because it's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun, lighthearted, whimsical. Makes me feel like a teacher writing on a blackboard. But that's not the message that I want to convey here. All right. And so I talked about using logo design to create these icons and making sure that those icons, the logos in the icons actually work well with the logo or with the fonts, that the fonts in the icon actually work well with the fonts on the page. All right. Has anybody done that yet? Really curious to see if people are going to do this, because I think you can use the logo design to create some amazing icons that are more than just we can do the icons here almost anywhere. But to be able to add this other additional information to it can be very helpful. All right. Anybody done that? That's a really good question. Tom's asking if you wanted to make a trifold brochure, would you use 6 infographics since we don't have the brochure templates? What I would do, Tom, is this, and let me save that question. I'm going to write that down. We'll do that when we open the canvas. Okay. Because I think I can illustrate that for you in the canvas, and we can make that work, okay? Because that's really a good idea. I would not use infographics because they're not really designed for that. But I'll show you exactly how I would do it, okay? Because I've done it. I've made trifold brochures before. Again, you know what I'm going to say, because you want to keep it simple. All right. So we can do that. I wanted to follow up from the business card design idea that we had last week, because my client was insistent that we make this thing go all the way across the top of this page, and y'all saved me. You absolutely saved me. I've had the 2/3, 1/3 conversation with him until I was blue in the face. And so what I decided that worked really well was, if you make this little thing right here, which was somebody's suggestion that we make, instead of having a straight line across like he wanted originally, to make this a curved line. And by making it a curved line, it crowds into this space if we made the logo any bigger. So that was just a combination. You want to do what your client wants. But I told him, I said, I've got a team of people that will be on Friday morning, and we'll design this for you. Now, this black background around this is for a reason, which has nothing to do with anything, but it's not part of the business card. So going back to looking at what the product itself is. You never make straight lines. Cables are never straight lines. They can't be straight lines. You're exactly right. Give them what they want, but not necessarily what they ask for. And I totally agree with that. Now, you got to remember, some of this stuff I probably wouldn't have done, but it was the owner's, the client's desire. He had somebody make this for him and wanted to incorporate this into his design, and I'm going to work with that. Okay. It doesn't make any difference to me whether I like it or not. It's not even up to me whether I like it or not. At this point, the client's happy with that. And if you don't put what they are happy with, but you got to find a way to make it work. And so I didn't want this to exceed 2/3 of the available space. That's that thirds rule that we talk about all the time. I didn't want this to exceed 2/3 of the space and then save enough air on either side of this to make it stand out. If we had made that any bigger, it would have taken up half of the card, and it would have filled up all of the space in that half, which is just too much. Okay, so this worked out well. He was happy. I'm happy. We were able to accomplish that. Put that in the business card design. It came out looking like this. And this was the other part of this. He wanted this unrolled and put across the bottom of this. So gave him what he wanted. This looks like where we wanted to go with that. And so I'm happy. He's happy. Everybody's good, right? Yeah, you have to give them what they want, but they may not know what to ask for. All right. I made multiple designs here. And what I was stumbling over, and y'all helped me with the other day, was to take that straight line that was across here and turn it into a curve. Boom. There you go. Now, all of a sudden, everything else works. And, you know, he was excited about the fact that the curve in this made room for this. It's like, okay, whatever. But it did exactly it accomplished his purpose. And here's the thing. It could have giant duck feet on it. All right. Yeah, we're not going to put anything on the back of the card because it's a software piece, and we need to be able to make that so that it works for. I had nothing to do with that. But the fact is they do line up. That's exactly what you're talking about, Dave. The biggest challenge is to take something that somebody else had designed and doesn't quite work. And that's always a challenge. That's actually an optical illusion, Diane. That does line up. I actually put a scale on it to find out. Yeah, we laid that on a grid mark to make sure that it did that. So, but it was something that we had to work with, okay? We just had to work with, and we made it work. All right. Now, let's get over and take a look at the canvas so that we can work from that. Let me stop sharing my screen. Hopefully, we'll be able to jump out of this and make that work, okay? Pull that up. All right, it's going to be a little slow, folks. So be patient here while I make the change. Actually looks to me like we're having a good experience. Nothing's being disrupted. It's just really, really slow to switch screens today. All right, are y'all seeing my canvas? Okay, good. This was the design that we were working on a while ago. This was the image that I worked on just a little bit. I actually thought I had a picture of Jesse Owens, and I was going to put that picture here, but I couldn't find it. I took that picture in 2011, and so I didn't have it readily available to me. So, all right, let's talk about this. We'll get rid of these images here. Let's talk about fonts for a little bit, okay? I'll just remove this stuff and we'll talk about fonts, because I want to give you, I want to introduce you to the new fonts that we have. I really like to do this. I don't know how the rest of y'all plan your work, but I really like to do it like this, and I'll show you. You've seen me do this before. We've actually done this in several different times with other things and other ways, and a lot of times with fonts and with shading and outlines and that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna take a number of these and I'm gonna spread them down through the page, because we want to figure out what works and what doesn't. So let's. I actually took that off of this. Are you ready? I took that off of. I don't even remember what I took it off of. It was off one of the templates. And I really like that. So what you can do now is you can take this font and you can go over here and you can start taking a look at how's that going to look, okay? And what fonts are going to look well together. I actually don't like that color. I probably should have changed the color before we started, but let's do that. That looks a little bit better. But the first thing that you should do when we have new fonts added, the very first thing you should do is figure out what those fonts are. Get yourself familiar with them. I've just got a few of them saved right here. That first one was Quicksand. This is Arbitron. I would never put these two fonts together, by the way. I just wouldn't do that. This font's great for a heading. It's worthless for everything else. All right. But just make yourself familiar with the new fonts. There's a really old school, bad 1917 typewriter style font. But this is the easiest way I know of to make yourself familiar with the fonts themselves, to see what they're going to look like. And it doesn't hurt to change colors occasionally. I mean, this looks much better in red than it did in black, right? But I want to know what they're going to look like on the screen. There's another font. I kind of like this, okay? But it's going to have very, I can't use it for a body of text, but I can use it for a little bit. I can use it in a spot, okay? Now, we've got a whole bunch of new ones that were just added. So make sure that you go down through here and take a look at this. I've never seen this font before in my life. That's kind of an interesting font. Then you have this, okay? So what you're going to do is simply go down through here and find these fonts. And we're going to take a look. How do they look? All right? I want to know how they look. Now, I've got them on the screen here. This, and I can figure out what am I going to do with this. All right. What am I going to do with this? Where is this going to be most appropriate? How is this going to be? Where am I going to use this, or am I going to use it at all? See, part of what happens to us is that we fall in love with a font that doesn't work. I mean, have any of you ever done that? Have you ever fallen in love with a font that just doesn't work? It's not appropriate. Now, if L was on, L, are you on? I want to find out if you're on today. All right. But sometimes changing the color of the font helps me to see how that's going to look, because I'm not going to use gold. I already know I'm not going to use gold in my heading unless something really unusual were taking place. But I want to look at it in its most natural environment. Yes, Susanna. I love that font, and so let's change this so that we can be happy here. Because I really, I'm guilty. I guilty as charged of finding a font that I just absolutely fell in love with, and that's it right there. This is just a really awesome font for a lot of things. I love it for headlines. It makes a great headline. When it's done bold like that, it makes a really nice headline. I wouldn't want to print everything in that headline, or in that font in Montserrat, but yeah, whatever. I don't fuss with it would be better if I searched for it over here. So this is what I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, because this is going to make your life really easy. Okay. I'm going to take this right here. Now I know what this is. I know what that font style is. I know what this is right here. So I'm going to go, I know it's Montserrat. So this is what I'm going to do. Am I spelling that correctly? No, it's an AT. Right? So I know what font this is, and whenever I want to use it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. Boom. Now I've saved this font. I go over here to my list, and I got it right here. I don't ever have to do this again. All right. I don't ever have to do this again. Now I've got it saved over here exactly the way I want it. All right. So if I really like this font, if I'm going to use this for, let's just say, for example, that I want to use this font for promotion, and I'm going to call this promotion number 12. All right. And I just want to use it like that. But the difference is every time I use this, because back to that little thing that was at a slant earlier, okay, I want to put it at that angle right there. Okay, are y'all with me? So I've now created the font I've now built the font in the size, or I'm sorry, in the font that I want, in a size that works. And this is a little bit large because that's 1,000 by 1,000. So that's a little bit large. So let's make it a little bit smaller. I've got it like this. And every time I do that, I'm probably going to do that in this blue color right here. All right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm simply going to save it. I've clicked on the save button right there. I've saved that font. I know that if anytime I'm doing a promotion like promotion number 12, I can grab this font and there it is. I've got it ready to go. So that eliminates the search. Hey, that's a really cool idea. Now think about this for a moment. If I were going to say, all right, now let me eliminate a couple of these so they're not in the way, and you can see what we're talking about here. I can do this. You can actually reduce the opacity of that font like that, and I can save it, and then I can use it as a watermark. All right. Now I've saved that. It's right here. I didn't save it. I'm sorry. Go up here and save it. You save it right here. When you go to the text tab, you save it right there. It's that little universal icon for saving. So now I've got it saved here. Boom. I can pull it up anytime. It's always going to be at that angle. If I wanted to use it as a watermark, then I would just simply duplicate it a bunch of times, scatter it across the screen, and do it just like that. Does that make sense to everybody? These are Johnny. These are saved forever. Okay, this text to area over here is saved forever. When you first start out, when you first get Uzine, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options, and that's it. But we added this save button right here so that you could add all of these things down here for whatever it is that you wanted to use them for. Okay. Yeah, that's all I did, Tyree, is I reduced the opacity of this one, and you can even see the details here. I reduced the opacity of this one to 15%. Just enough to be annoying, but you can see through it. And I'll prove my point. Let's put a background on here. Let's grab an image background. And let's change that to something that's easier to see. But you can see that's probably too light for a darker one like that. Probably won't work on there, but you do see it running off the top up here. So just figure out what works well. So if you wanted to use that as a watermark, it works really well like that. See, they can still see the image. They get the idea of what's going on without being able to steal it, which is the whole purpose of that. Okay. Any questions about that? This is how you figure out, and honestly, this is how you figure out how to make some really cool stuff in Usign. All right. That's all you have to do is use a little imagination and make it work. But with all of, I'm sorry, I just deleted somebody's comment. I'm sorry. Eric's asking the question about how would I, if I had this font right here, let me get rid of some of these because they're always going to be in my way now. But if I had this font right here and I had a background, let's throw a background on here that gets in the way. Let's take a background here that would get in the way. If you ever, and I'm glad this popped up, if you ever have this message pop up, you know what to do? Does anybody know what to do? Click OK. That's all you have to do. What it told you was you just hit the end of the list. That's all it is. You just hit the end of the list. I scrolled too fast and hit the end of the list. That's exactly what happened. So you just click OK. I mean, I think at least once a week, somebody asks in the group, what's going on? How come this seems broke? It's not broke. It's just you hit the end of the list. Okay, so if I have this image right here as the background, we'll make this image the background. This doesn't work real well on this background, right? It works okay up here. But if I want to make the background stand out, I have several options available to me. One is that I can put a shape behind it. Okay. And grab a shape. And yes, I always use a square shape to do this with. Grab a shape behind it, run that off the edge of the paper like that, or run the edge of the paper. You can tell how long I've been doing this kind of crap. I used the word paper. That was really smart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to the background. I'm going to move it backwards until the lettering shows up. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the opacity of this like that. And I'm going to change the color of it. Now it stands out. Does that make sense? That's one option. Another option that I have is I can put a light border around the outside of it. Another option that I have is I can take this and I can actually do this. And I had done this on the Jesse Owen quote earlier. Do it like that. So kind of it's there, but it's not a defined box. All right. So there's lots of options that I have. I think outlining the letters gets overdone sometimes. And so I have a tendency to try to find ways to not have to outline the letters. I apologize for hurting your eyes. I'll apologize for hurting your eyes so I won't hurt your feelings. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do here. You could add, like somebody said just a minute ago, you can add a shadow to that. But you have all of these options available, and see, all of a sudden that changed that. If I wanted to change the color of the shadow, I could do that, and you can accomplish this in some pretty interesting ways of being able to make the lettering stand out. Lots and lots of ways to do that. Yes, I use the opacity to make this box right here. I use the opacity tool right here to increase or decrease the opacity of it. And you can see what happens when I have that blur radius around the outside of it. You can see what happens when it's more visible. See, if I turn that off, it becomes a clearly defined box. If I turn it on, it changes that. Nope, they're everywhere. Jan, if you are not seeing the fonts in the drop down, if you're not seeing the new fonts in the drop down right here, which you should be by now, if you're not seeing the new fonts here, then all you have to do is clear your cache, log out of Usign, clear your cache, and come back. Okay. I'm looking to see if there's any other questions here. Here's what I would suggest. James is saying soft opacity looks better than a solid box. I tend to agree with that. But if you're going to do it, be universal when you do it. I have one that I do for my blog post that I do not have any opacity on it whatsoever. I don't have any blur radius on it at all. I have it as a clearly defined box, but I do every single one of them exactly the same way. Oh, the brochure. Yes, thank you. I appreciate you reminding me of that. See if we can get this done here real quickly. I'm going to go over to print size. If I can remember where prints are at. Prints are right here. They used to be at the bottom. I'm going to go over here to letter size. And this is what I'm going to do because I can't ever remember the sizes, okay? I'm going to turn this into a trifold brochure, so I have to flip this sideways. And 3,300, that's what that is. So now what I'm going to do is come up here and change this to custom. And make that 3,300 and make this one 2,550. Now, let's get rid of all of this. And what I'm going to do is take a box. I'm such an old school guy that learned this by newspaper layout and design. Okay. I'm going to do this, throw the grid line on here, and then I'm just going to eyeball it, see how close I can get. I think that's it right there. We'll duplicate that. Put it right there. We're still off a little bit. So we'll pull this over. Right there. And delete that one. Duplicate it. Until I get them to match. Okay. And I can tell I've made that just a little bit big. Okay. But you want to make 3 equal spots here. And then what I do is simply make those 3 boxes like this. And these are not exact, so please understand that as we're doing this. They're not exactly exact, but I reduce the opacity to almost nothing. So I know where I'm working at, okay? change this one to a different color, reduce the opacity on this, and change this one over here to a different color and reduce the opacity on this. Like I said, I'm a very simple guy, so I don't make this more complicated than it has to be. But I know that I'm now working in 3 sections, okay? Yeah, I'm not going to worry about any of that crap right now, Eric. I'm just showing you how would I lay this out. I would lay it out just like this. Okay, so I've got 3 boxes that I can work with, 3 equally divided boxes that I can work with. And you're right, this is probably move this over to about 8, and I don't have time to count them. We're running out of time. We're actually out of time, so I was rushing to get through with that. But now I've got 3 equal boxes to work with. And I design on top of this. So I put my text on top of this. And then when I'm finished, go back in here and delete the boxes. Okay. That's how I would do that. I actually used to have a pixel measuring tool, and it crashes the webinar software, which is crazy. But that's exactly how I would do it. I would duplicate those 3 boxes across the top, and then do everything on top of the box, and then delete the box. Determine an image size for trial and error. That's really easy. You throw an image in it and find out. It's called Clickology, man. This is a giant image, but again, I'll make the image the size I need it to be. Just click till you get what you want. Clickology. I'm amazed how many people are starting to use that phrase. Somebody posted a link to the webinar replays. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this beautiful Friday. I've got a place to go with a bunch of kids. So I will see you next Friday, right back here, same time, same place, doing the same thing all over again with a new topic. Okay?